Welcome back to another presentation in our series about how you might consider using R in your social work research practice. We've had 3 prior presentations, as I recall, so this would be the 4th, although we didn't label them in any particular order, but this one is sort of kind of expands a bit on how, in a larger context, about how R and RStudio might be helpful to the work that you do. So we would really want to expand on this question that we're posing: why should I use R in my practice? We mentioned in an earlier presentation that you might be entirely satisfied with the packages that you currently use, the SPSSs and M pluses and status and all those. And you might be legitimately questioning why you would want to invest in learning R, because honestly, I won't lie here, there is a learning curve to R. It really does take a little bit of time. Once you catch on, I think, to the metaphor, as they say, it gets a little bit easier. Actually, it gets a lot easier. I shouldn't hedge my bets there. It does get a lot easier. And typically, the way I use it, I find a particular use. It's not like I'm doing a lot of data, fishing. I usually have a specific analysis in mind that I want to complete, and use R to do that. It helps a great deal. So, but anyway, you might be saying, why bother? And honestly, I had similar thoughts. When I was exploring item response theory, it's like, okay, do I really want to jump into R? Do I really want to do this? Do I really want to take the time? And I'm glad I did. It turned out that it was, kind of a sort of a data inspiring thing, if that makes sense. It really kind of changed my world. I don't want to be hyperbolic here about this, but it really did change how I think about things. And I'll tell you why. The more I got into the R literature and RStudio literature, and sort of branched into some of the material that has been written around R and why R and all that, I really ran across some broader values that R and RStudio embrace that really rang resonant to me. Things like open source, data sharing, replication, reproducible science are all terms, and there are others, but those are probably the biggies. They are the values that R, which is a completely open source product, really embodies, and people who get into R usually embrace those values. You can embrace the values not using R as well. I mean, certainly it's good business to be in the replication business and in reproducible science business and those kinds of things. So you don't have to be an R user to do those, or certainly are mutually exclusive, but it's the stated value base of R and RStudio that really captured my attention. I'm kind of going on and on here, but this is no small matter, and a lot of things are happening out in the world of replication and data sharing. Tons, actually, of stuff going on, writing and conceptualizations, and kind of in the middle of it all is R, and to some extent RStudio, in fact. So what I thought I would do today is a fairly simple illustration of how R and RStudio tools can be helpful in data sharing and replication. And I thought I would anchor that in a personal experience or a personal effort to facilitate replication and sharing of data some work that we did in an article that we wrote a year or so ago. So I thought I would start there, and I'm going to see if this really works out. So I'm going to go down and open up our article. So this is an article that Natasha Bowen and I, Natasha, hopefully you're out there, you're hearing this. She's kind of the ringleader in all this movie making thing. She and I wrote an article on using item response theory and confirmatory factor analysis. We discovered as we got to know each other, over the last couple of years, that we have some passions around IRT and CFA and SEM, and actually I like them all. So I'm not strictly an item response theory person. So I use and like confirmatory factor analysis and SEM and that sort of thing. So I don't want you to get the idea that it was like two camps coming together, although it was a little bit of that. So we thought it would be nice to illustrate how these two measurement frameworks might be helpful in skill development process, and we wrote about that. And I'll see if we can scroll down through this. And I won't read you the article, but and it was in the Journal of Evidence-Based Social Work, which is a good journal. And this is the open access thing of it. Most of you've been either through this or certainly know about it. So nice article that we worked hard on, and Natasha whipped me into shape, and you can see we have some nice things here. So if you're a speed reader, you'll know that it was really a great article, and man, I can't believe they did that. So down at the bottom here, we're getting there, is really the point. Is really kind of the point of how this article fits in this presentation flow. So we, like good soldiers, provided at least part of the analysis for anybody interested in replication, and we call that replication. And you see this, and probably some of you have even done it. Hopefully you have, shared, either, syntax, source code, maybe have a link to one of the repositories that we, have available to us. Certainly, I hope so. But this is how we did it, and in thinking about RStudio as facilitation of that. So if you click on this link in this article, it will take you to a data repository called GitHub. GitHub is very popular in the R world. Many of the functions and libraries that get distributed in R are developed and maintained, or at least maintained in GitHub, and you can actually load from GitHub code, the most recent code. Phil Chalmers makes the MERT library available up to date. It's more up to date than the one that's actually published in the RStudio environment, basically. So it's always like right at the leading edge. I don't usually do that because loading, installing off of GitHub files has some layers that are frankly a little bit confusing. But I've done it, but the point is that GitHub is a data repository, and you can see I've created my own account, and I have a set of repository items that people can click on. It's all open source. There's no restrictions on it. If you click in, you can get it. And this is the how we go from an article to making files available to people, and we're talking actually data files, and we're going to take a look at how this looks in R. It's in a R Markdown document, so we're going to do that. So Usually when you do a GitHub repository, you develop a README markdown file, and you can see we have some simple directions, about how you can download R, and then RStudio, and then put this isolation markdown in isolation CV, which is the data file, in the same folder, because we need to have that as the library that we're working with in R. And then RStudio, load MERT, you can see how that goes, and then open this file, which is going to be an interesting file, as you'll see, and then we're going to knit it, and then we're going to see how it produces a report. So I'm kind of doing this quickly, but you certainly are welcome to mirror this process. It might even be interesting and helpful for you to see how the pieces fit. So what you will do with that is go up here to code. Actually, it used to be this was download, but you can go here and then you download a zip, and it will download a zip to your computer, and then you can unzip it and put it in a folder that you designate. Couldn't be more straightforward. So let's pop over to R and see what we have here. So I actually no, this is what happens next. So I did everything. Actually, I did everything that I was supposed to do in that article, and I got this far. And what I did was basically make sure that the two files were in the same folder, and I have I opened the isolation R markdown file, and it's now sitting here in RStudio. So this is probably for another day. I think it would be really interesting. I'll have to see if there's any interest before I do a movie on it. But markdown language, the R markdown language, is really a very helpful language to learn. It basically it weaves together, or as they say, knits text and our code together to create a report. It really is slick. I have a bunch of documents on RPub, I think 8 or 9, that are illustrations of how you can use R in social work research practice. And I did them all using the R Markdown, RStudio R Markdown language to do that. So there's a bunch of things that go on in this, and I won't get into it. Again, it might be for another day, or if you're interested, we can make some other arrangements. But the point is, this is text that I developed, and then this makes a call to R, and it just is setting some attributes basically. But here we can, sorry about that, we have you can see here we're reading our data file, and it's a chunk. These are called chunks cleverly, and they're offset by some special characters, and then we fit a graded response model and just kind of go through this. So hopefully if you download this, you can actually see how it works. And so you develop that and troubleshoot it, and spruce it up. You can do lots of interesting things, and you can output various types of documents in using R Markdown in RStudio. In this case, we're just going to do an HTML document, but you could also do a PDF document. You can do a PowerPoint. It will export to a Word document. It will actually do a number of things. But just today, I want to show you how we're going to do this as an HTML. A web page, basically. So once you get this downloaded, and as we said in the directions on GitHub, you just go up and find a little clever, ball of yarn, and then click on the knit command. And what's going to happen is that this is all parsed through the R Markdown language system, and it's going to create this document. Now, this can be tuned pretty nicely. These are really just sort of bare bones. I'm just kind of illustrating this, but picture reading the article, and you're interested to see how we developed this, and how we actually did it, and the commands that got used. I mean, this is really very facilitative of data sharing, and you can see how this then reports the data that we report in the article. These are all the parameters that we got. These are the various graphs that we got. These are all the things that we did in the article. So this is really a kind of replication, replication example. Also, people will have the isolation file if they're interested in doing something with the data. They actually have it, and typically I get calls to, do you actually have the source code that you did, not just the RMD file, the Markdown file, but the actual script, and I generally share that as well. So the regular script would just have these commands in it. It wouldn't have the stuff in the Markdown that you get in the Markdown. So, and then what you can do is publish this if you like, and you can kind of send it off to wherever you publish. I guess I have to install some. I'll show you where it goes when we're finished here. So that's really kind of a simple view of the process, basically, and it's really pretty slick. So let's take a look. Let me run over to see if I can do this without having it be overly complicated. Let's go to our pubs. And our pubs, and sign in, and I'll sign in there. And you can take a look at the profiles. So these are, they're kind of hard to see, but these are examples of the RStudio R Markdown documents that I've created. Item response theory, this is the one we just did. I've published that. And exploratory factor analysis, meta-analysis, SEM, CFA, intervention research, and survey research I guess there are 9 or so. I can't really tell. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little less. Anyway, those are all documents that I created using our RStudio R Markdown. If that is helpful, you can just follow this link, our pubs to JBean, and look those over. They're actually, if I might say, I would humbly say they're really pretty good. If you click on one, it will open up into the document, and they're HTML documents, but you can see once you catch on to how to do this, it's actually quite, I wouldn't call it easy, but once you get the workflow, it's certainly doable. And so the last thing, I was kind of taking a look at this concept of openness and data sharing and replication, and ran across this site that I hadn't really been involved in too much, and I just sort of perused. It's called Open Social Work, and it's committed to the values that we're talking about, and you might want to check it out. And it has some some sites for open data. Oddly enough, it doesn't have GitHub on it, but Figshare is apparently popular, and the Open Science Data Framework are there too, as I understand it, repositories. And there may be others. I'm not sure about some of these others, but certainly you don't have to use GitHub to do the data sharing replication process that I just illustrated. It just seems to work pretty well if you're making a commitment to using R and RStudio. So that's pretty much it for this presentation, and hopefully it expands the possibilities for you kind of outside the scripts that you're writing into the more the larger framework of how can I use scripts and analyses to actually share things in an open science sense, open data sense, and kind of commit to that. And I'm not assuming that you don't. I'm just saying that this is one way. If you are committed to that, this is certainly a way to enhance your skill set. So, well, I hope you found these presentations helpful. I do have a little rambling style, and they weren't highly scripted. I hope you don't mind that, but I think they serve the purpose of at least giving you a sense of what the possibilities might be for using R in your own practice if you haven't decided to do that. So contact me, Jerry Bean, bean.8@osu.edu, or bean.jerry@gmail, or call me, or do whatever you want. I'm happy. I'm kind of in the business of hoping that the College of Social Work at Ohio State will embrace, at least in some fashions, the use of R in data work that it does. So take care.